What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Movie Emporium's TV review of Dopesick Episode 7, Black Box Warning. This, of course, is directed and written by Danny Strong. Now, before we begin, if you like this channel, awesome! Hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium, hit that notification bell top to find what's coming next. If you like any of the videos, awesome! Hit that like button, as well as commenting below any videos that you watch, including this one. Okay, episode 7, the penultimate episode of this limited series that is Dopesick, is basically moving into the final stages of this series. We'll leave the Fennix and Betsy stuff for the end because I really want to get into that. But this episode is you're starting to see kind of who is the players, who are not the players, how much of a reach the Purdue Pharmaceutical has when it comes to the DOJ, when it comes to the DEA, when it comes to FDA, all these A's and O's and whatever. And it's really sad. We'll break it down, like I said, as we always do with the characters and stuff like that. We'll start with the intro. The intro opens up with, I think, the grandfather of Richard Sackler, which is Arthur Sackler, who in 1962 is giving testimony about the falsehoods and stuff they were giving to doctors and medical professionals. And basically is what Richard is doing now. Probably not on as much of a global scale, but basically the Arthur Sackler is brought into the chambers of the Senate, and he is being under oath, under testimony, and they basically the senators confrontly ask him, you know, what is going on here? Are the doctors that are giving all this information out, are they under your payroll? And Arthur Sackler, like the Sacklers, is very good at lying, at pursuing a lie that makes it not a lie. And it was really difficult to watch because their statements and claims they make are extremely false. This is how they make money. And it's the kind of sad nature of the kind of circle that keeps presenting itself in the American public, where people will make money under scrupulous reasons. And you see Arthur Sackler kind of interspersed throughout this entire episode, because he's kind of the I want to say the kind of book lining or book arcing thing, where once something happens, they're brought back and he's kind of giving almost like a narration of what we're hearing about in this 7th episode. But it's really disturbing. I mean, even at the end of the episode, he's like, I want to thank you, the Senate, for allowing me to give this testimony. Like he's almost laughing in their faces, like, you know, I'm going to get away with it and there's nothing you can do about it. And that's what a lot of this episode has to deal with. You know, for instance, we'll go to the Bridgett stuff. Bridgett, of course, has found these cases. They've found over 1,000. They've, you know, gone through it exhaustively and stuff like that, medical and all that good stuff. And they are going to present it to Pharma and, of course, the FDA, who are planning a meeting. Her boss is like, maybe you should give them the stuff, so that the paperwork, the stuff you found, so they can go through it. She's like, no, I'm basically going to entrap them in a lot of aspects, make them kind of you know, on the edge of their seat and kind of, you know, taken aback by what's going on. And her segment's not really that long, but it's kind of important because it actually reaches into an overarching theme with this doctor that is presented in this episode, which I'll talk about in a second. She presents all her information. It's a big pamphlet, which we see a lot of big pamphlets or big studies in this episode, where in essence she's like, look, we have 1,000 cases or however many cases they have. It was taken orally. We have all this information. And of course, Purdue is like, well, we didn't get a chance to read any of this, so we can't, you know, prove our case, where it's, you know, what about some falsehoods, or this seems rudimentary and stuff like that. And what's really sad is there's a point in this episode where they're talking about how people from the FDA are being hired as employees, or they're being put on the take for Purdue Pharmaceuticals, given lots and lots of money, which I'll get into with the Richard and Randy stuff. But basically, the FDA brings in like a rep of some sort, a rep for the drug company. They're kind of like a lawyer in some aspects, where in essence what is happening is there is some underlying secrecy going on, where the FDA is reading the same material that Purdue is reading, but what is happening is FDA is siding with Purdue, which means that, of course, Bridgett has lost her case again, which, because this takes place in 2001, 2002, in the Randy and Rick stuff, takes place in like 2004, 2006. There's a lot of stuff that needs to happen here to happen in the Rick and Randy stuff, but she loses the case with the FDA. They basically have said, we put this warning label and blah, 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 and they side with Purdue. Well, that makes Bridgett angry. Of course it would, she goes back home, and her husband, who she's confronted and told what has happened, says maybe you should just kind of lean back, find something else to do, get away from this because it's ruining you, it's ruining your career. And that's kind of the end of the relationship. We've seen before that they got divorced, blah, 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 blah. And all this is coming to a head, and it's basically Bridget's kind of on her last leg, and she's basically, this is the point where they're going to get divorced. The relationship is over. And what Bridget is doing here in this segment of this episode is the underlining work, the skeleton work for what Rick and Randy are eventually going to do, because they do eventually meet at some point. And it's just it's really difficult to watch something like this. It's like when you listen to the Arthur Sackler stuff in the beginning, as hard as you push, the thing that comes into play with a lot of these issues and, is money talks, money walks, money sells, money does everything. And you see it with the lawyers that they hire and the people that they hire. It's just one big machine that is just money, money, money. Charles Wright is part of this big conspiracy with Purdue, and he was paid $700,000. Curtis Wright was paid $700,000, and it's just always money, 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 money. There's no repercussions. It's always whoever's the billionaire is going to have the success, and you see it with this unfortunate failure that Bridget goes through, which I hope she appears in the end of the series and the 2004-2006 stuff, because it could really kind of blow up in the case, which I know from everything I've read about this case, they eventually win, but it becomes a bigger mess than what it was in the beginning. And so we'll go on to the Rick and Randy stuff, which is the jumping off point from the Bridget stuff, where Rick and Randy, of course, are doing everything in their power. They have all these avenues they're trying to research and, deduce into, trying to, find all the information they can. They actually go back to a video that they watched from the very beginning of their kind of their structure on their kind of take onto Purdue, and they find this character Curtis Wright. And Curtis Wright is an individual that was paid $700,000 or more by, of course, Purdue to come work for them, and he worked for the FDA. Randy ends up going to talk to Miss Moles, who is I think somebody that works for the FDA, and she basically tells him that there was a hotel that was rented out by Purdue. Curtis was involved, and he helps kind of rejumbleize or relabelize this whole situation with the pill and the warnings and stuff like that. And so the FDA is in essence in league with Purdue and their future employees and stuff like that. It's really crazy to watch. It's insane that this is once again the money thing. Money will talk in every aspect. And so they sit down with John, Rick and Randy do, and they find this video that has these three big lawyers under oath saying they didn't know that the drug was really addicting till 2000. But Rick's like, how would they not know that when they knew about it in 1997? So therefore they perjured themselves under oath, they lied, so on and so forth. It's a very criminal offense. So John's like, okay, we're going to indict them. Well, the thing is, they have to go up against the big lawyers like Giuliani and stuff like that, who were high-paid attorneys to, confront this situation. This is where it leads to the DOJ. They walk to the DOJ. This is where Alice is introduced, which is somebody that John knows. They're talking to the Purdue group, and the Purdue is doing everything in their power to be like, this is not a problem, blah, blah, blah. It's not really going very well. Alice takes John into their office and is like, you're not going to win this. This is not my choice. This is basically, these are big lawyers. They're going to prove their case. And this is where we learn that the deputy general of the DOJ is going to basically allow these guys to acquit, and they're going to get off scot-free. Well, John makes the swift decision to walk into the same meeting and go, Michael Freeman, Howard Udall, and Paul Goldenheim are going to be indicted, which is a scare tactic in a lot of aspects, because when they walk out, Rick goes, how do you know this is going to work? He's like, I don't. So therefore, they are putting all their chips into a basket. They don't even know if they're going to win, just to use a scare tactic against three individuals who they think could turn. They really think they could turn these people if their case is proven and turn them into, flippers. I guess you could say the flippers are individuals that have the ability to, testify and give them case information and stuff like that. So it's pretty crazy. It's insane to think about, and it's just all this stuff and what they have to do and how they kind of have to twist and turn and use scare tactics to get anything to go to their side is crazy. It really is. It's a crazy thing. So I don't know. It's kind of crazy to watch. It's insane, these tactics that the good people have to use just to get the bad people to like work with them, I guess you could say. So, but that's pretty much it on the Rick, Randy, and Bridgette stuff. Like I said, we're going to see all of this kind of come to a head in the 8th episode, where it's just going to be one big probably session with the, you know, the Supreme Court and, you know, the grand jury, and all that stuff's going to go down. Michael Keaton's going to be testifying. All these doctors are going to be testifying. We're going to see what we've seen little bits and pieces for, I'm pretty sure, throughout the entire episode. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. And then we have the Billy stuff, which actually is a lot more interesting in this episode than he has been in a lot of the other episodes. Billy is dejected at this point. He is questioning everything that he's being told by his reps, the head reps and stuff like that. The head rep thinks the reason he's acting the way he is because he has problems with his woman on the side, which is the Amber character. He's like, oh, I'm sure that's what it is, blah, blah, blah. We know he's dejected from what he's seen from, of course, Fennix and what he's learned. But we go back to the house, and Amber seems to kind of fallen for him, I guess you could say, kind of fallen in love with him. She wants him to be his boyfriend, go with her to New Orleans because she's been promoted. It seems like he's going to do it, but who knows what's going to happen. But he goes back to we're back at the Purdue head rep playing thing, and they're giving more information, blah, 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 the black box warning, which I'll talk about in a second. And he starts questioning more things, whatnot. They kind of, you know, he's like, how do we know this is going to work? You know, isn't this drug a dangerous thing? Isn't black box warning a dangerous thing? And the head rep's like, oh, don't worry about it. The way they've written it, the labeling and stuff like that, this is where the Richard stuff's going to come into effect. Will make us triple our sales. So it's all about money. It's always been about money. And what does Billy do? Instead of just kind of going with it, he walks into the head rep's office, takes a bunch of seminar tapes or tapes that have been recorded about this meetings that they've had and about how they've used and abused the situation. So now he's turning on the situation for the better. So therefore he's trying to correct course what ends up happening. He knows that everything that's gone down is wrong. He needs to be the better man. So he steals a bunch of tapes. As these TV shows do, his head rep walks in at just the moment where he's just putting the tapes in his bag. He's walking out. He says he needs some time off, but I think he's going to give the DEA or DOJ some information to move this story forward. So that's Billy's story. It's very short, very quick, but has some big meanings and stuff because he's stealing tapes that could help the DOJ. He's going to break this case wide open and so on and so forth. So. And now we have the Richard Sackler stuff. Richard Sackler stuff is the kind of catalyst for how everything is going to collide at the very end of this episode. Or the end of this this series. Richard is confronted by his father. His father says there's going to be a black box warning on their medicine. Basically, what the black box warning is, if you don't know or if you do know, it's a warning that's put on a medicine that it could be considered dangerous, that could be considered addicting. It's a major warning about be careful with using this stuff. So his father's like, he tries to put one over on his father, but his father's like, Arthur, your grandfather Arthur would never have done something like this, getting a black box warning. But which is a nice shot against the bow, which I thought was kind of funny. But basically what's happening is they find out they're getting a black box warning on this Oxycontin. Very dangerous, could ruin the whole Purdue Pharmaceuticals company. But what's really funny and what's really kind of interesting is Richard, I'm not laughing, I'm laughing at the insane nature of everything, not the fact that he was able to pull one over on these people. He has a way to make it good for them. Everything's bad. He has a way to twist it into his favor, and he brings up the idea of extended period of time. Now, anything extended period of time could be very dangerous, but he is trying to get that and some other labels, some other warnings, addiction is rare, blah, blah, blah. Addiction is reported to be rare. Put on this, but the extended period of time that this pill needs to be used is going to triple their sale. And it's just insane to think about, because he's able to take this extremely extreme situation against them, turn it towards them, because he is able to get the FDA to approve to these changes. So not only is the black box warning now kind of invalid, which it should be valid, but it gives information that is still false. So they're still winning. They're still pushing the extended period of time. Everything that is happening is going for them, and they're going to triple their sales. Not only is this a win for them, but it is going to not only ruin them, but when they're talking about like with the Amber stuff being, going to New Orleans, where there's a lot of poverty there and a lot of people who are hurting, they're going to use this pill to cause even more damage. And it's just like, Oh my god! Like watching this episode and thinking it's so infuriating because I know they're using all this to kind of make it more dramatic and a lot of stuff, but this is still stuff they did. Whether it's more dramatic in its nature for being on TV or not, they still created this stuff to be more dangerous and more addicting, and they were lying to people, and they're still doing it, and they found a way to push past the boundaries that is supposed to warn people about this being a very dangerous drug. So it's like your mind is just wrapped around this, trying to figure out how can somebody be so callous, so evil, and you realize it's just money. It really is. It's all about money. Richard, who is a doctor, doesn't care about people. He doesn't care about individuals. That's why they hire people like Rudy Giuliani and stuff like that. They don't care. They get the biggest, best lawyers who can twist and turn and spin everything in their direction. And as long as they have money, that's what wins. And you see it with the Fennix and Betsy stuff, with how dangerous and how destructive the pill was. And, they somehow make it work. Like I said, it affects the Bridgett stuff. It affects the Rick and Randy and John stuff. It affects Betsy and Fennix. It's amazing what one company that sells one particular type of thing can ruin so many people and affect so many lives. But as we've been seeing through this entire series, that's exactly what OxyContin did. And wow, I don't know even what to say, but yeah, we'll leave it at that. I'm really interested to see what will happen with Richard and Purdue. I know they got immunity and a lot of stuff they got exonerated for, but yeah, it's crazy. But we'll leave it off with the Fennix and Betsy stuff. I'll talk about Betsy last because that's the most hard-hitting portion of this episode. Fennix seems like he's recovering pretty decently. He's on methadone, which, thank you for telling me that. I didn't realize it was methadone. I didn't know what it was. But as we learned, methadone is a narcotic. It's a drug. It's it's powerful, but it's not in the form of OxyContin. And Fennix is with this woman. I consider her a helper. She's kind of like a person that's helping him get through his dark demon type of situation. But she's having him write in his journal to kind of help him kind of, move past the fact that he's devastated a town. She's trying to get him to come up with the good things that he's learned about. It's a form of therapy, I guess you could say. So there's a character that, of course, Fennix eventually meets because the woman that's helping him recommends him. But the character's name is Art Van Zan, or Art Van Zan, and he's an individual that is a doctor who is trying to be the doctor that helps people, that is actually helping people wean off OxyContin, get rid of the drug, so on and so forth, signing petitions and whatnot. And he is an individual that seems to be for the cause, trying to go against it's basically the David versus Goliath situation. He offers Fennix this medicine called Suboxone, and Suboxone is a narcotic, but it's supposed to help people and so on and so forth. It's supposed to help them get through their addiction and whatnot, but it's also a drug that unfortunately Fennix might have to take for the rest of his life. Well, the other side of the flip coin, Fennix is trying to reinstate his medical license, but he needs to be off the methadone because it's a narcotic. He needs to be clean for a year. So Fennix is telling the advisory board guy, the person he's talking to, that he needs this medicine because it's helping him against the OxyContin. He's like, the guy's like, there's nothing I can do. You have to be clean, so on and so forth. Well, he's offered, like I said, we go back to the other flip side, and he's offered this Suboxone, which is another narcotic, which pretty much guarantees that Fennix may never be able to be a doctor ever again, that he's going to have to, live with the fact that what he did was, really messed up, really wrong. He needs to, live with that, go through all this therapy and so on and so forth. But he decides to take the Suboxone. He decides that he's going to do what he needs to do to keep himself clean. Well, he calls up Betsy one night, who we get into the Betsy stuff. We'll talk about the Betsy stuff too as well. Betsy is, of course, on heroin now. She's been using the drug for quite a while. Her mom finds her at a drug house where these people were strung out and whatnot, and she takes her back home. She seems to be getting better. Her mom asked her to go with her to see this guy, which ends up being Art Van Zan. And basically, Fennix calls her and talks to her about this stuff called Suboxone, says that it works, that it helps him. She agrees to go. And what's really crazy is Betsy's character is a very tragic figure, somebody who we kind of saw where her story was going, and it's the unfortunate thing. You know where it's going if you watch the episode. But Fennix is like, I'll meet you at the clinic. We'll get you better. And Betsy's mom, Diane, is doing everything in her power to help her daughter. Is like, I don't care if you're a lesbian. You can do whatever. You just need to get you clean. They go to see the minister at the church. And the minister or priest is like, don't take this drug. You need the grace of God. Of course, Betsy doesn't believe in God. And what's really sad about the situation is Betsy was an individual that once she got addicted, there was no way there was going to be a way to save her. She was an individual that felt that heroin was the thing that was her God, was her religion, was her thing. She goes back to the house. She goes back to the drug house, and she takes one more dose because she's like, I'm gonna take one more dose because like as a going away gift, we're gonna go, have the Suboxone and stuff like that. And we get to the morning. A police officer pulls up to Diane or the Betsy's family's house. Then Diane can kind of guarantee what's going on, but the police officer has to tell her, and Betsy dies of a hot dose. It's really strange to be that kind of taken by a character, but in a story like this, when you see from all sides, angles, and comparisons of what's going on, to watch the person that is the most effective lose their life to something like that is a really hard thing to see. And we've all had someone who's, died or passed away from some kind of crazy situation like this, like a drug overdose or, whatever. And it doesn't make it any easier when you see it from a different angle or you see it from a different person. And you see it even in the father of Betsy. He knows once the police officer pulled up that there's nothing more they can say. And I knew in the next couple episodes, I knew it was, Kaitlyn Dever is going to be her last episode, because it was just, you knew where she was going. You knew that was, you wanted her to believe that she was going to make it, but you knew that it was just going to be too much for her, and it really was. And Fennix calls at the end there to try and find out where she's at, and that's when he finds out, and you can just tell he knows he's ruined everything, and it's going to be interesting to see where Fennix goes from there. But with that said, that's pretty much where the episode ends. There's some more Arthur Sackler stuff where he's, talking about thank you for allowing me to testify and stuff like that, and testimony. And it's an episode that hits hard, really does. It's sad. It's you're seeing all these people that are being destroyed. You're seeing all these people. I mean, there's a scene where Peter Sarsgaard's Rick character, who has been going at this for 4 years, and his wife's like, just come to bed, or you come home tomorrow and eat a dinner and play with the kids. And it's starting to affect everything, and it's because of one company's ambition to make more money and ruin more people's lives and just not care about anything. And it really kind of is an interesting comparison, an interesting kind of side by side with what's going on now with the pandemic and the virus, the COVID, where it just seems like more and more things come out, the more and more it's just billionaires and the people are on different wavelengths. They don't care about anything about what we do, and that's what's happening here. And like I said, I'm gonna end this because I've been talking for quite a while, but it's just really depressing. It really is. I mean, you could talk about heroin addiction and all these different drugs, and this is just one particular drug that ruined a lot of people. But you can see how far-reaching it can be when it gets out of control, and when the people who, can control it refuse to control it, and the people that are fighting against it for the better are getting screwed. And like I said, money talks and money walks when it does. So this is a hard episode. I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10 because it's still a great episode. Sad to see what, it's Kaitlyn Dever's performance is magnificent, but it's rough to see what Betsy ends up becoming her, and, all these characters. And Fennix is pretty much, a changed man for the worse, and so on and so forth. So with that said, we have one more episode in this series, which is going to be the culmination, where everything's going to come to a head when the official, checkmate situation, I'm sure, is going to happen, where the official chess pieces are going to conclude their game of chess. So With that said, that is going to be my longest take, probably the longest video I've done of this series. Of course, Dopesick episode 7, which is Black Box Warning. Thank you so much for watching. As always, in the comments below, what did you think of this episode? Were you pretty much on board where you kind of figured that, you know, all these characters would be in the place that they're at? What did you think of the overarching arc of the story? All that good stuff. But otherwise, if you like what you see on this channel, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at the top to find what's coming next. If you like any of the videos, awesome, hit that like button, and we'll see you guys on the official final conclusion of this series, which is Dopesick. Peace out.